Let's
I will
talk
look
about
for it
this.
on the front porch.
Let me just, we can discuss that as we start recording here on the 16th of June. And I'm so
Beautiful day.
pleased to announce that Canada Post is about 15 feet closer to your house after it's going to be 2 weeks.
Is it lying on Westminster?
It'll be 2 weeks until since I got that friggin' traffic ticket getting that damn package to the post
Oh,
office.
yeah.
Yep, you forgot about that,
Yeah.
did you?
Yeah,
Did
well,
you?
you're trying to make me feel guilty about it.
I
I feel
am. And you
sensational.
don't care. You revel in my pain. And
You've made
even
my
the
have you
process of this taking so much time to get to your house is pissing me off, and you're reveling in that pain even more.
actually I'm trying to contain my grief. I'm laughing on the outside.
But Canada Post, again, we're not ragging on the rank and file folks. They're working very hard, and we all know what's going on. But the item was processed in Montreal at 8 o'clock this morning, and expected delivery by end of day tomorrow.
End of day tomorrow.
Yes.
So at about 11:59
Yeah.
tomorrow night, a guy's going to pound on my door.
It's, you know what, and it's better than UPS. I stand corrected about. I mentioned I thought UPS was catching up yesterday. They are not, unfortunately. Um, their tracking system and the various bottlenecks are not seeing eye to eye. See, so if you get an email from UPS saying you have a package due tomorrow, the day after, unless you receive an email day of, you can forget it because they're still
Is
way
this a
behind.
computer glitch? I know it's
No,
because of the great amount of stuff, packages that are going through, but
it's
are the
just
computers screwing up too?
no. The computers, I think, they essentially, when a package arrives at a depot on a certain day, then the system knows that under normal circumstances it should be out for delivery either the following day or the day after. So it automatically, by default, sets that up and sends out an email. But
Yeah.
what's happening is you're getting emails, but the package is sitting in a
And
semi
with Canada
someplace.
Post, you've heard the opposite. Well, I've had the opposite happen to me twice now. Yesterday, we got a package from HBC, Hudson's Bay,
Yep.
through Canada Post. It was shipped. It was a dress my wife had ordered, and I think it was 3 days.
Well, coming
And
this
it came
way.
through Toronto.
Yeah, and coming up to the North Shore from Montreal is overnight because I have a package that was mailed yesterday and it's due for delivery today. But heading into the maelstrom that is the Montreal processing center there, that's where all the bottlenecks are. So
You
anyway,
know,
it's
the guy
coming.
got off the truck and he came over to me and I said, "Do you know Mr. You know?" And he laughed.
Yeah, he said, yeah, we have a picture of him in the
Yeah,
truck.
it's true. Yeah, he gave me a little tour of the truck,
Yeah.
and it's wallpapered
And there's a
with
picture
your.
of me like this, right? No, I'm
Oh yeah, and they've got a mustache on one of them.
That's right. Yeah. No, no, no. I have not ragged on these people, and I've been and I know that they're working really hard. And the UPS guy came by last week after a 2 week wait for something that was sitting again, literally in a depot that I can practically see from my house for 2 weeks. And he got a sheepishly. He said, we're knocking ourselves out. I said, I know, I know. Thank you very much. Gave him a
Yeah,
tip, and
these
off he
guys
went.
must be working long
Yeah, yeah,
days.
yeah.
Long
So
days.
it's coming. Anyway, let's get to something. Richard King is in the green room here. I just wanted to share something with you quickly. A quick little Netflix note. Season 4 of F is for Family is up as of this week. That's Bill.
Oh yeah.
That's Bill Burr. If you're a Bill Burr fan, you've probably been watching this series. If you have not heard of Bill Burr or have only seen a little bit of his stand-up, then the series is worth watching because it's kind of a sitcom. It takes place in the '60s. It's rather touching in its own way, and each season has an arc. So now season 4 is out, and I'm mentioning it as well this morning because there are Canadian connections here. There's an Ottawa production company associated with the show, and the season 4 director is a guy by the name of Sylvain Lavoie, who works for a company out of Montreal called Oasis Animation. So you'll see his name pop up as the
Oh,
director.
and Bill Burr plays himself.
This is Bill Burr's voice in the lead character. He does other voices in the series, but that's Bill Burr just howling and screaming and angry all the time. And
Sounds like you.
yeah, I'm a fan of his because he can be very funny. It's raunchy in terms of shows and language and all of that. If that's not your cup of tea, then fine. But if you're accustomed to the Bill Burr style, then you will enjoy the show. And it's kind of sweet and kind of touching in its own way. So that's and
Is this the
Sylvain.
same animation as Bob's Burgers?
It's similar it's similar in the way it's constructed. Although the language, F is for Family is bluer than Bob's Burgers, which was a network show. This is a Netflix show, so it's more in your face. But there are bits in there that will make you howl, and you have to stop in some instances too, because some of the they'll show a scene in front of a church and they'll write something on the church billboard, but it goes by so quickly that you want to stop and go back and read it. And for example, there was a school shot in episode 3, and there's a quick little sign, and it says, Dave Brinston has been found, is what it says on the front of the movie. So
I
it's
believe people call that random now.
yeah. So
Speaking of animation,
it's a lot of fun.
I feel terrible. I mentioned, or I have not mentioned, but I was going to mention that the guy who provides the voice for Homer Simpson en français
est décédé.
Died last week, and
Yep.
for the life of me, I can't think of his name. He sounded like a real Renaissance man, and made Homer his own.
Yes.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff they had to do which just couldn't apply in French Quebec. So they made it very Simpson-like, but he and the other actors involved, voice actors involved, made a lot of very good Quebec references. And I apologize. I will bring
Yeah,
up
his name has slipped my mind too, but yes, I noted that as well because and yes, The Simpsons en Québécois was a unique product for sure, and he was
and he
well
did it
regarded
every year
in the
until I think they changed the voice last year or the year before because of course
he had health
became ill.
difficulties. Yeah, but in the dubbing world. He was very well known and very well respected. So, shall we bring in Richard?
Let's bring in Richard King.
Richard King. He's a columnist. He's an author, former owner of the Paragraph bookstore. He's a legend, ladies and gentlemen, in his own mind. Richard
And
King.
has a beautiful pair of glasses.
And he's sitting in front of a
Books
library,
and
and it's all
everything.
his CDs. And don't you know? There's a copy of the book just over his left
There
shoulder.
it is. Yeah. Have you read it yet, Richard?
Shameless self-promotion.
That's perfectly fine. This is what this vlog is all about.
Actually, Richard asked me if we were going to play the word game. You know what? I've forgotten the rules of the word game.
Me too.
Or were there any?
Well, the rules were kind of ad hoc, but we would come up with a word, and then the guests, while music played and we would dance or whatever, would have to come up with what we hoped would be a funny definition.
That's right.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Well, that's
And I was the moderator.
Yes, and I was the kind of word inventor, along with the highly paid staff at Home Run.
I remember I used to do that on the Late Show back in the day. Funny definitions for rather common words. So is that what it was?
People love word games. They just adore word games.
Okay. Well, that's what the word game was. All right.
But Richard cheated actually a lot.
Yes.
Because
Well,
of the big cash prizes.
we've gotten to know Richard by
In fact,
extension. over the
I
years.
have one of the prizes right here. You can.
Do you?
Hold it up.
It's a mug with a dirty word on it.
Daybreak.
Oh my God.
There you go. So Montreal.
Yeah.
And on the back it says so annoying.
Yeah. Actually, one of them says, "So what?" How you been, Richard?
I've been great. How are you guys?
We're holding up
We're
pretty
good.
well.
We're good. How have you been in this confinement business? How you hanging on?
Well, it hasn't really changed my life all that much because as a writer, I work from home by myself. The only thing I miss is that I can no longer work in cafes because they were all closed. So that was a bit of a hardship. Seems kind of silly to complain about what amounts to nothing when other people suffered a great deal more.
Yes. And a quick little question: do you miss the store? You must miss the store.
Yeah, yeah. I sold it in 2000. I left Archambault in 2003, and whenever I have an opportunity to be back there, I still feel kind of a pride of ownership. And it's the oddest thing, even though it's been 17 to 20 years since I worked there, if a customer happens in who remembers me, they think I'm working.
Right.
And they'll say, "Oh, do you have this book or that book?" And I'm happy to serve them.
Was it? It was a terrific and still is a terrific store. Great location too.
Well, you know, it was a wonderful location, Richard, for when we used to do some daybreak remotes there.
Oh, there was a day we did an entire CBC remote, starting with Daybreak and ending with Home Run. Well,
Yeah, what a day. It was
Yep.
great. And one of the ones we did was, I don't know if you were involved, you may have been, but somebody had an opening line for a book, fiction, and people would have to add to it. And we had finally had all, they did it by phone, but when we were at paragraph, we had them all there adding on to the narrative of the book. It was really a lot, and people really got excited about it. It was lots of fun. We gave a lot of mugs away that day.
that's why there are no more mugs in the green room.
Yeah, yeah, it's a keepsake.
Yeah.
Tell us
No, you
about
have
the
to
book.
bring your own styrofoam cup these days.
There you go. Tell
Yes,
us about
exactly.
the book, Richard. A Stab at Life.
Yes. Amongst other things, I volunteer in the emergency department at the Jewish General Hospital. Um, they've cut the volunteer program during COVID, but for the 10 years previous to that, I was there once a week. While there, I got to spend an awful lot of time with nurses and noticed that they were brilliant diagnosticians. Most people think when they go to the hospital, especially when they come to the emergency department, that it's the doctor who makes the original diagnosis. It's not. It's the nurse in triage. It was a baby step from thinking about that to thinking about mysteries and how, in a mystery novel, the detective or the principal character is effectively doing what a nurse does in real life. So I put together two characters, a nurse in the emergency department of a hospital which I renamed the Gursky Memorial Hospital,
Okay, that named after Charlie?
For
named after
Solomon.
the Solomon, the
Oh,
character in Mordecai Richler's novel.
okay, I got you.
Get Charlie Gursky into the next novel, Richard.
Okay.
um, Along with a nurse, and together they solve a series of crimes.
Now, Richard, is this the real nurse who
Yes,
inspired
that's
the
a picture of Margaret Quincy, Maggie, who is the nurse on whom I modeled the fictional character of Annie Linton. No one notices, but the guy standing beside her with the bad hair is me.
Well, you look very happy.
Always happy to be with Maggie.
So volunteering at the Jewish, was it for 20 years or so, you're saying?
It was 10 years up
10
to the
years.
time,
Okay.
maybe a little over. I think it was 2009 I started, and they canceled the volunteers at the time of COVID.
Oh,
Or
I
And
see.
suspended, I
Okay.
should say.
Okay.
I'm hoping they'll reinstate the program
And the other
once the
major
crisis has
character
passed.
in this, sorry for interrupting, Richard, but the other major character in this book is a Montreal cop by the name of Gilles Bellechasse. Is that right?
Yes, and that's sort of your generic fictional cop. One of my problems as a writer is that I have trouble coming up with good family names, so I tend to fall back on Montreal streets as as my source of surnames. So Annie Linton, Gilles Bellechasse, and so on.
Well, it seems to work. How long did it take you to write the book?
Uh, a first draft usually takes me 6 months or so, but writing is rewriting, and then there is a great deal of rewriting to make the novel readable.
Can you give us a short without being a spoiler, of course, you don't want to do that, a short idea of what Annie Linton and Gilles Bellechasse do together? There are a series of murders, aren't there?
Yes, it starts off with Gilles, before he becomes a detective, he's a cop driving a patrol car. They pull into an area near a park around about dinner time where he and his partner, are having their sandwiches or whatever cops have. They notice that there's a gang of kids in the park, clearly dealing drugs. So they go to interrupt it. Now, I just want to take a digression for a moment that that plot point would not have worked without the help of our Prime Minister, Francois Legault, who made it illegal for kids over the age of 18 to buy marijuana at the outlets. So that led to the continuation of a thriving drug trade. Anyway, they approach Gilles approaches the kids in the park, and one thing leads to another. One of the kids has a gun and really inadvertently shoots Gilles, wounding him. He's taken to the Gursky, where Annie Linton is the triage nurse on duty, and that's how they meet. Once he's cured and promoted to the detective squad of the Major Crimes Division, he goes back to the hospital to thank her. They start to date and become a couple.
Oh,
There are other murders that take place in the park, and it's a little unclear at the start whether it's kids selling drugs, fighting for turf, vigilante action, or some other cause. And that's the mystery that unfolds. Annie provides the clue that unravels the entire series of mysteries.
great fun. Do you start, when I write, I usually start from the end. I know how things are going to end and I work my way back. But is that how it works with you? Or do you just sort of jump in and say, well, I've got an idea and I start developing it on paper or on a computer screen?
Well, I start with, I think all mystery writers do this, knowing who committed the murder or murders, and then sort of back it up. Well, what are the clues? Once I've established the principal characters, they're recurring. So it's always going to be Gilles Bellechasse and Annie Linton.
Right.
And every once in a while, more than every once in a while, quite frequently, I get a surprise in the writing process when something I hadn't realized would be a good clue. It just sort of pops out at me, and I wonder why I hadn't seen it before. I don't, I'm not locked into a series of events because sometimes in the writing you realize you've gone down a dead end or something. So it requires a certain amount of creative flexibility.
Did you talk to doctors, nurses, and cops for authenticity's sake, such as a gunshot wound or stuff like that?
Nurses, yes. Whenever I had something medical to check, I would normally check with Maggie, but of course I had all these nurses around that I could use as sources. The interesting thing about the cops is this. Two very different reviewers, one an editor at Random House and one a book reviewer, made the comment that the cops didn't seem realistic. And they both chose an example of something. In my first book, a cop comes into a bookstore as part to arrest a shoplifter, and the bookstore has a security system, and the cop, to test the security system, picks up a book and walks in and out. The editor said, well, that doesn't seem realistic. In actual fact, it happened every time we arrested a shoplifter at Paragraph. The cops never tired of playing with the security system. In the second case, a reviewer in a newspaper made the same comment, but I had an email from a reader who asked me if I had ever had my house searched by a cop. In the novel, there are two searches of suspects' homes, And in both cases, the people living there found it very invasive. And the person who wrote to me said she happened to have been in a situation where, following a crime, her home was searched, and she felt the exact same way. She felt that had committed a crime. What's interesting is the cops that we all love on TV and in novels, who are fast on the draw, fast with an insult, etc., are not realistic. Cops are pretty much like the rest of us. They go to work, they have families, they worry about the things we worry about. How are our kids doing in school, and so on. So my realistic cops are based on interactions I've had in business with members of the force.
Yeah, it's a lot more like Barney Miller than it is Dragnet, right?
Yeah,
Or maybe even
it's a
Dragnet.
job. They're
Yeah.
very good. They all seem to have a natural suspicion of everybody, which is, I think, a precondition to being a good detective. I tend to idealize them a little bit and not focus on the ones who have tunnel vision and lock on to the first suspect they find. But by and large, if you put them into a room, you wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting
What
perspective.
is it about the mystery genre that you like? I mean, you consume them as well as write them, right?
Yeah, I just love it. I think it's because it's rational. Everything always works out in the end. We live in an irrational world. Before I was in the book business, I was in the history business. And the job of a historian is to essentially give a rational explanation for irrational events. And mysteries are kind of the same, except everything does work out. In life, it doesn't. But there's a great deal of comfort in the genre for that reason.
Hmm.
And I noticed most of the historians I worked with as a student and in graduate school were avid mystery readers. Many of them could quote scenes from Sherlock Holmes from memory.
That's amazing. Because it's funny, I'm reading post-Roman Britain right now. Huge book about post-Roman Britain, and talk about irrationality. I mean, this is a history. Everybody's beaten up on everybody else, and it ain't a mystery novel.
No, the mystery is how the species survived this long.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. It's amazing. They're all
Ding dong, boom. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
It's true. Yeah, I stole your horse too.
Right, yeah. Bang. Yeah. Okay. Did you want to cover off on something else here, Richard? You were talking. You want to do a live hit for your book? Is that what you're planning to do?
Well, selling books in the time of COVID, when bookstores are closed, is a tricky business, and I'm looking for someone who can give me some kind of technical advice on how to set up a series of podcasts, essentially for mystery writers. That's where I'm starting,
Okay.
where we could, develop a podcast to promote our books by turning a chapter or two into what used to be mystery radio dramas.
Oh, cool.
But I have sort of the creative idea, but not the technological skill
So would you
do a
right.
podcast.
I'll ask you some questions. And would you be bringing people together this way? Several people on the screen who would then be interacting and reading from their texts or something
I'm not
like
really thinking of it as visual, more just a podcast.
An audio.
Where there,
Okay.
yes, where there would be 3 or 4 voices. The person who is promoting, each author who is promoting their book would turn a couple of short chapters into a script, very heavily on the narration, but other voices to speak for other characters. It would just be enough to whet the appetite of the listener, who would hopefully go out and buy the book.
I understand.
Do this in working with bookstores. My book, for example, we're getting to the shameless self-promotion now, is available at Paragraph. You had a shot of the window there. And so far as I know, every other retail outlet. Um, so the writers would work with booksellers. So maybe there'd be a scroll along the bottom or something saying where the book was available or how to order it. Anyway, that's the idea, but I'm weak on the technology. I don't have a microphone as sexy and professional looking as Yvonne's.
Well, it's
It is
that's
kind of sexy, isn't it?
actually no. Well, you know what? You know what? That's where you would start, and they're not expensive. You can purchase. This is a condenser microphone. I have a collection of them. I just happen to like them, and I use them for voiceover work. But you can purchase a USB microphone that sells for less than $100, and it plugs into your PC, and that will automatically improve the voice quality right off the bat. And when it comes to audio, if you're going to do audio only, you can record on Skype or on Zoom. Of course, if you have more than 3 participants in Zoom with the free account, you're limited to 40 minutes. But if you want to go longer, you can use Skype. And if you're simply doing audio, that would be the easiest way to record. You get everybody online and you chat and you save your audio file and distribute it from there. There are audio service systems out there that will distribute your podcasts as well. Those are pay-for-use systems. I'll put some links up and send them to you after we're done here to provide you with a bit of background.
That'd be great.
So audio is probably the easiest to do, and it's still very popular because podcast listening has gone up, as you can well imagine, in recent weeks and recent months. People were thinking it would level off, but it's still very popular and still very, very popular on the audio side because I do video casts for clients and things like that, and we distribute both the video and the audio tracks separately because a lot of people like to listen to them while they're jogging or walking or sitting waiting for a bus or whatever they're doing. So
I listen to them in my car
Yeah.
while I'm driving. Since traffic reports are kind of useless these days, all the streets are under construction.
That's a mystery in itself.
yeah. So if you're going to do one thing, Richard, is and I'll put some links up for that too. And Dave and I have been discussing this of late. We're trying to get audio things straightened out, and I've got other clients and colleagues who were requested assistance with that too. Susan Pinker asked about that the other day too, David. We
Yes.
talked about that with her after because she does a lot of conferences. And the simplest first step you can do is purchase a USB microphone. It simply plugs into the PC and automatically will improve the audio
I'm
quality.
sure Yvonne can give you some online
Yeah.
ideas about to order one,
Yeah,
Richard.
and I'll
too.
put up some links for you, and I'll send them to you directly, Richard, as well. So
And to give you an
That'd be
idea
great.
how easy it is, I actually am now hosting a Zoom conference with 3 other people. So it's dead easy as far as the technology.
and there's a lot of drinking going on when Dave does that too. So, but it's still he still manages.
Well, the
to
man
get it
is a
done.
writer. He's a writer. For God's sake.
Good.
He's hammered now.
Richard, a pleasure to see you, my friend, and break a leg with the book. I look forward to reading it.
Thank you very much. It was
Oh,
great being
Richard,
with you guys.
you know, what you mentioned, it kind of brings back the great days of CBC radio drama,
Yeah.
you know, in the in the 40s and the 50s.
You know, I remember listening to this detective mystery show on radio when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. It was called Johnny Dollar. I think it was probably the last one because we did have television
Yeah.
in those days, but there was one remaining mystery. And, you know, sometimes I get a chance to hear an old one. I just love them. And podcasts are kind of bringing them back along with, you know, it's a modern form bringing back the oldest form.
And,
Yeah,
and the popularity of audiobooks and podcasts has never been
Oh,
greater
yeah, I
than it
listen
is
to the
now.
great
So,
courses. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
Richard,
I
Always
agree.
good to see you, Richard.
good to hear your
Great
voice,
speaking to
Richard.
both of you. Thank you very much.
Nice
We'll
seeing
talk
you,
to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye now.
And Richard harkens back, as I say, to CBC radio dramas. British, there were people from the BBC who mentioned that in the very early 50s, just at the advent of television, CBC Radio was putting on the best radio dramas in the world. John Draney was known as, and he wasn't being effusive. He said the dramas CBC Radio put on were bar none the best.
So anyway, we'll follow up with Richard, and that should be very interesting because he can probably bring, not probably, he most certainly can bring together some very talented people too for his podcast.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah.
so
He's part of a mystery writers association. They go up and they burn a statue every once in a while.
there you go. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Kind
all
of
right. That's a nice comforting little thing today. I feel better now.
Now he's
I feel
going to burn
better.
an effigy of me.
No,
So-
no, I feel better having seen Richard and heard his voice and everything. It's almost comforting, and the idea of just opening a book and reading something and
it might be fun to have him back and do the word game.
okay,
One episode.
we will do that because he's always prepared. Richard
You
always
could
shows
lean
up
over yours
prepared.
and slap me. Yeah,
That's right.
well, he's lots of fun.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. And you might win a mug.
Jeff Dworkin tomorrow.
Yeah, Jeff started out in our newsroom. Actually, Jeff's a couple of years older than I am. And he started out in that Montreal newsroom, which was just packed with a bunch of great reporters, including Frank Roach.
Okay,
But
that's right,
Jeff
Frank Roach.
Jeff went on to TO and also ran National Public Radio out of
NPR.
Washington.
That'll
a
be
number of years,
a
number
very
of interesting years.
outspoken person Jeff is. I don't know him personally, but he's I see
He now
him.
teaches at U of T, I believe,
Yeah.
journalism.
So I get the impression that he's not going to be at a loss for words about
Not our
commenting
Jeffrey.
on a few things. So we'll
No,
check
Jeff,
in with him tomorrow.
And Jeff will give us the behind the scenes of a lot of what was going, because NPR was out of Washington, and just even in those days before he came back to Canada, the stuff going on was just incredible to watch. So I'd like to see the inside machinations of that.
There you go. We'll check in with Jeff tomorrow. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care. I'm doing more planting.
Okay, that's my
But
mother.
what is somebody waiting for you at the?
My mother's calling. I better take that call. So
Talk to you soon.
yeah,
Say hi to her.
I will.